The rain came in fierce sheets the night Nia was born, drumming against the zinc roof of the small clay house. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of burning kerosene and wet earth. A single oil lamp cast trembling shadows across the mud walls as a young woman cried out in pain. Moments later, a newborn's wail pierced the night. Her skin was rich brown, her tiny fingers curling into fists as if she already sensed the battles she would fight. But her mother's cries faded into silence, and the room grew heavy with grief. Nia's father, heartbroken and lost, remarried within months. The new wife, Mama Ife, came with sharp eyes and a voice like a whip. From the start, she looked at Nia not as a daughter, but as an extra pair of hands. She made her do all the house chores, but her stepsisters does nothing. Nia was never allowed to go to school, only her stepsisters went. She stays at home all day and work she had never touched. Of becoming something more than the walls around the sun was leaning toward the west when Nia balanced a heavy clay pot on her head, heading toward the stream. Her bare feet kicked up small clouds of dust along the narrow footpath, the afternoon heat wrapping around her like a heavy cloth. She walked quickly. Mama Ife would scold her if she returned too late, but as she rounded a bend, she saw a figure she didn't recognize. A tall, well-built young man in a crisp white shirt and khaki trousers stood under a tree, reading a book. His skin was a warm, deep brown, his hair neatly trimmed. The small crest on his shoulder identified him as a NYSC copper, one of those graduates sent to serve in villages. Nia slowed her pace, curiosity blooming in her chest. She had seen coppers before from a distance, but never this close. He looked up and smiled. "Good afternoon," he said warmly. Nia hesitated. "Good afternoon, sir." His eyes flicked to the pot on her head. "That looks heavy. Let me help you." She shook her head quickly. "No, sir, I can manage." He didn't insist, but as she passed, he noticed the way her eyes lingered on the book in his hands. "You like to read?" he asked. Her steps faltered. She turned slightly, her voice soft but steady. I, I've never been to school, but I wish I could read." Something shifted in his expression, a mix of surprise and quiet determination. "My name is Kelechi," he said, "and if you want, I can teach you." For a moment, Nia just stared at him, the late afternoon sun painting the edges of his face in gold. She felt her heart pound, not out of fear, but from the sudden possibility that her dream, the one she had carried all her life, might not be dead after all. The next afternoon, Nia walked toward the big mango tree at the edge of the village, her heart beating faster than usual. She clutched a small piece of broken slate and a stub of chalk Kelechi had given her the day before. Kelechi was already there, sitting cross-legged on a low stool, a warm smile spreading across his face when he saw her. "You came," he said, as if he had half feared she wouldn't. "I said I would," she replied, lowering herself onto the mat he had spread on the ground. And so it began. Under the cool shade of the mango tree, Kelechi drew letters on the slate and taught her how to pronounce them. His voice was patient, his explanations simple. Nia soaked up each sound and shape like dry earth drinking the first rain. Within a week, she could form small words. By the second week, she was reading simple sentences from an old textbook Kelechi had found in the village storehouse. Her eyes lit up each time she understood something new, and Kelechi couldn't help but notice the determination burning in her. But word traveled fast in small villages. One late afternoon, as Nia repeated a sentence from the textbook, her stepmother's sharp voice cut through the air. "Nia!" She froze. Mama Hefe stood there, her face twisted with anger. So this is where you hide instead of doing your chores? Before Nia could speak, Mama Hefe marched forward and slapped her hard across the cheek. The sound echoed under the tree. This girl is not your concern. She spat at Kelechi. Kelechi rose slowly, meeting her gaze without flinching. She is my concern if she is denied what every human being deserves, he said, his voice steady. For a moment, the air between them was tense, the only sound the rustling of mango leaves. Mama Hefe turned away with a hiss, dragging Nia by the arm. But the seed had already been planted, and no amount of anger could. The slap left a faint mark on Nia's cheek, but it could not erase the new light in her heart. That night, she lay awake staring at the thatched ceiling, replaying Kelechi's words. She is my concern if she is denied what every human being deserves. The next afternoon, she found a folded scrap of paper hidden inside the water jar. It was from Kelechi. Meet me behind the old chapel at sunset. Her hands trembled slightly as she tucked the note into her wrapper. At sunset, she slipped away, careful not to be seen by her stepmother or sisters. The old chapel sat on the edge of the village, its walls cracked and covered in moss. Kelechi was waiting, holding a bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside were 3 old textbooks, a stub of pencil, and a small notebook. If they won't let you come to me, then I'll come to you, he said softly, and so the lesson continued in secret. In the quiet corners of the chapel, in the shadow of the mango tree, when no one was watching, even in the dark kitchen, after everyone had gone to bed. Nia's progress was astonishing. She could now read simple passages without help, write her name in bold letters, and even form short sentences on her own. But with every lesson, the danger grew. One evening, as they studied by the dim light of a lantern, Nia heard footsteps outside the chapel. Her breath caught in her throat. Kelechi quickly closed the notebook and whispered, "Stay calm." The footsteps faded away into the night, but the fear in Nia's chest didn't leave. She knew her stepmother's eyes were always watching, and that one mistake could end everything. The dry season wind carried more than just dust, it carried whispers. It started with the women at the stream. "Have you seen that girl, Nia? Always walking somewhere with a smile these days." Then at the market, "I heard she's been meeting the copper." At night, Mama Hefe had them too. One morning, as Nia pounded yam in the backyard, Mama Hefe's voice cut through the air like a whip. "So, this is why you're always wandering off, to chase after a man." Nia froze, her hands tightening around the pestle. "No, Mama Ife, I..." "Don't you dare lie to me," Mama Ife snapped, stepping closer. "You think I don't know you've been sneaking around with him?" Her stepsisters, standing nearby, exchanged sly glances, enjoying the scene. Nia's lips trembled, but she stayed silent. That evening, Mama Hefe called the girls together. "From now on, you don't step foot outside this compound unless I say so. And if I catch you near that copper again, you'll regret it." Nia's heart sank. The world beyond the mud walls felt further away than ever. But when the moon rose, she saw a faint flicker of lantern light at the far end of the path. Kelechi was there, leaning against a tree, waiting. She hesitated, then slipped into the shadows, the night hiding her defiance. The next week, Mama Ife made good on her unspoken threat. From dawn to dusk, Nia's days became a blur of endless chores. Fetch water from the farthest stream, sweep the compound twice, pound yam until her arms ached, wash every pot until her fingers wrinkled. There was no time to breathe, no chance to slip away. One night, as Nia dragged a basin of wet clothes toward the fire, her stepsisters accidentally spilled the soapy water, forcing her to start all over again. They laughed as she bent down, hands raw and red from scrubbing. By the third day, Kelechi noticed her absence. He came to the edge of the compound and called softly, "Nia." But Mama Hefe was faster. She stepped out of the shadows, arm folded. "She's busy," she said, her voice like cold iron. "Go back to your government work." Kelechi's jaw tightened. "I'm not here for trouble, Mama." "Then you know where the road is," she replied sharply. Nia, watching from behind the doorway, felt a pang in her chest. A dream of learning, of escaping this cage, was slipping through her fingers. That night, she lay awake, tears sliding silently into her pillow. But deep inside, something hardened, a quiet decision that, no matter how much they tried, they would not break her spirit. Kelechi didn't give up. If Nia couldn't come to him, he would bring the lesson to her. The next evening, when the compound was quiet and Mama Hefe had gone to visit her neighbor, Kelechi appeared at the back fence with a mischievous smile. "Nia," he whispered. "Come." She hesitated, glancing toward the house. "If she finds out—" "She won't, trust me." He led her to the old mango tree just behind the compound, a place hidden from the main road. There, on a flat stone, he spread out a few worn textbooks and a small slate board. "We'll learn here," he said. "No one needs to know." Under the soft glow of a lantern, they began. He drew letters. She copied them carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration, tongue picking between her lips as she wrote. Every mistake became a laugh. Every new word learned was a small victory. But halfway through, the sound of footsteps approached. Nia's heart leapt. She quickly hid the slate under her wrapper. Kelechi stepped in front of her, pretending they were simply talking. A shadow passed by. It wasn't Mama Ife, just an old neighbor. Still, the moment left Nia shaken, realizing how fragile their little sanctuary was.